Cultural competence becomes central when we have to interact with people from other cultures. People see, interpret, and evaluate things in different ways. What is considered an appropriate behavior in one culture is frequently inappropriate in another. Misunderstandings arise when I use my meanings to make sense of your reality. Because of the cultural diversity of students, school staff must realize that students' language, slang expressions, or body language are not necessarily personal attacks on drivers or other students. Staff need not have a comprehensive knowledge of all cultural dialects and mannerisms, but they must respect the differences without creating a hostile or confrontational situation when dealing with students. Staff should react or discipline based on the student's actions rather than the ethnicity, culture of the individual. What is cultural awareness? It is the foundation of communication. It involves the ability of standing back from ourselves and becoming aware of our cultural values, beliefs, and perceptions. Why do we do things in that way? How do we see the world? Why do we act or react in that particular way? Did you know that cultural differences manifest themselves, often subtly, in many everyday activities? Greetings, signs of respect, conversational styles, dress codes, food choices, table manners, attitudes about school and work, and religious practices vary widely across cultures. For example, in some cultures, avoidance of eye contact is a sign of respect, not an indication of discomfort, interpersonal avoidance, or lack of interest. An apparent lack of assertiveness might also be a sign of respect rather than shyness, ambivalence, or disinterest. The meanings of gestures are not universal. People from some parts of the world may interpret typical American gestures, such as pointing an index finger or giving a thumbs up, as rude or even obscene. When meeting or greeting one another, people from some cultures shun body contact, particularly with the opposite sex. People from other cultures expect to be kissed or hugged by people of the same or the opposite sex. Many cultures consider students' academic achievement to be paramount and do not concern themselves with students' social development. Expressions of praise and criticism are interpreted differently by different cultures. Food choices, preferences, tolerances, and taboos vary widely across cultures. Misinterpretations occur primarily when we lack awareness of our own behavioral rules and project them on others. In absence of better knowledge, we tend to assume rather than finding out what a behavior means to a person involved. For example, a straight look into your face is regarded as disrespectful in some cultures. In becoming culturally aware, drivers and staff must realize that we are not all the same. Similarities and differences are both important. There are multiple ways to reach the same goal and to live life. Each situation is different and may require a different solution. Levels of cultural awareness. There are 4 levels of cultural awareness that reflect how people grow to perceive cultural differences that we will discuss today. My way is the only way. Sound familiar? Some drivers and staff ignore the impact of cultural differences at this first level and think their way is the only way. Some examples could be the following. Why don't they learn to speak English? Why don't they go back where they came from? They come here and take our jobs. They just come here and go on welfare. Be sensitive to their feelings about their homeland. Developing nations are not as poor, backward, or uneducated as North Americans tend to think. I know their way, but my way is better. At the second level, drivers and staff are aware of other ways of doing things, but still consider their way as the best one. In this stage, cultural differences are perceived as the source of problems, and people tend to ignore them or reduce their significance. For example, those people should speak English. My way and their way. At this level, staff are aware of their own way of doing things and others' way of doing things, and they choose the best way according to the situation. At this stage, staff have taken the first steps to improve communication and recognize that cultural differences can lead both to problems and benefits, and are willing to use cultural diversity to create new solutions and alternatives. Our way. This fourth and final stage brings staff from different cultural backgrounds together for the creation of a culture of shared meanings. Staff create new meanings, new rules to meet the needs of a particular situation, and no longer fear the cultural differences and communicate with students and parents with confidence. What level are you? There is no book of instructions. Since everyone is the product of their own culture, we need to increase both self-awareness and cross-cultural awareness. There is no book of instructions to deal with cultural diversity, no recipe to follow. But certain attitudes help to bridge cultures. The first steps in managing diversity are to recognize it and learn not to fear it. Let's discuss this statement further. Recognize diversity and learn not to fear it. Admit that you don't know. Knowing that a situation does not make sense, that our assumptions may be wrong, is part of the process of becoming culturally aware. Assume differences, not similarities. Suspend judgments. Collect as much information as possible so you can describe the situation accurately before evaluating it. Empathy. In order to understand another person, we need to try standing in his or her shoes. Through empathy, we learn how other people would like to be treated by us. Self-assessment. Check your assumptions. Ask your colleagues for feedback and constantly check your assumptions to make sure that you clearly understand the situation. 8 steps to improving sensitivity. Take the initiative to make contact with the student or parent, even if language is a problem at first. Show respect for their culture and language. A new student may be in culture shock and grieving over the loss of their culture, or at least the fear of losing their cultural identity. Ask, how would I feel if I were in their shoes? Learn how to pronounce names correctly. Their name is as important to them as yours is to you. Practice saying it until you get close to how it should be pronounced. When speaking English, do so slowly and clearly. Remember, raising your voice does not make English more understandable. Be yourself. Show that you care about them as people and that you honestly want to help. Take time to listen. If you don't understand or you're not understood, take time to find out why. Explain or ask questions. A key question might be, would you help me understand? Be careful about promises. In English, we express the subjunctive, possibility, probability, or contingency in a way that is sometimes misunderstood by internationals. Don't allow cultural differences to become the basis for criticism and judgments. Differences are neither good nor bad. What we do with them is the key. Valuing and recognizing the importance of your culture, valuing diversity, and realizing that cultural diversity in others will affect your communication and will improve your students' education experience. Cultural awareness is the foundation of communication. It involves the ability of standing back from ourselves and becoming aware of our cultural values, beliefs, and perceptions. Since everyone is the product of their own culture, we need to increase both self-awareness and cross-cultural awareness. There is no book of instructions to deal with cultural diversity, no recipe to follow. But certain attitudes, such as admitting that you don't know, suspending judgments, empathizing with others, and continually self-assessing, will help to bridge cultures and affect communications. Differences are neither good nor bad. What we do with them is the key.